Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Road to Grandmaster series. This is episode 47. And this is the fifth round game of the New York Labor Day GM Norm round robin tournament. Thus far, it has been bad. I've got half a point out of 4 games. For whatever reason, I have not been playing particularly well. And in this game, it doesn't get any easier, as it would in an open tournament. If you had half a point out of 4, you would be playing all the way over there, whatever's that way. Here I'm playing Grandmaster Oliver Barbosa, who is also from the Philippines, but he has lived many, many years in New York now. He has a peak rating of close to 2,600, not quite as high as Paragua, who had a peak rating of over 2,600. But Barbosa was very good. I beat Barbosa in 2016, reliving my glory days. I think his rating back then was like 2515. So from playing all these round robins and all these kids, he has lost some rating. And before this game, and before this tournament, I knew that Barbosa plays the Slav defense. He plays like this. And I had decided that, depending on the tournament situation, I was either going to play something fun and exciting, or I was going to play something solid and, play a long game. Like, there are many, many things you can play against the Slav defense. Because I have half a point, I decided I'm going to play something very edgy, very strange. And I played the exchange Slav with knight c3, and he played knight c6, which allows me to play e4, and then he played knight f6. He can also play e6 here, and against knight f6, I spent a little time, I played f3. Now, the reason I played f3 is that against knight f6, in this position, I was going to play f3, and if he played knight c6, I was going to play e4. Now, what's funny is I'm currently working on an English course, which will be on Chessly. It's not out yet. An English course. And one of the weapons against the Slav is exactly this opening with pawn to f3 and pawn to e4. Nasty, nasty opening at low level. Nasty opening. But I decided, you know what? If he plays the best line according to the engine, which is pawn takes, there's d5, knight e5, fe, etc. Worst case scenario, it's going to be a draw. So if black knows like 15 perfect moves, it's just equal, and a lot of pieces get traded. And I'm okay with the draw. I have half a point out of 4. Clearly, I should not be getting into any fisticuffs with anybody. But what's funny is before the tournament, I was actually like analyzing this at home. And a move that is extremely rare, but not that stupid for a grandmaster to play, is this move e5. And it's not the best move. It's not the best move because you take, and this is what happened in our game, knight e5, and then you have this move f4. And I had known about the move f4, and I knew that knight g6 and knight g4 were not particularly good moves. And I knew that the best move was to go to d7. Like, according to the computer, the best move was to go to d7. And then he went here. And I was like, what? He's giving me a pawn with the tempo on the knight. So the knight went c6, e5, c6, and now has to move again. And basically what he wanted is ed knight b4, and he wants to win my pawn back. And I spent so much time after knight c6. Because I considered 2 things. I considered pawn takes d5. And if I'm not going to play pawn takes d5, I'm going to play e5. And if he moves his knight, I win his pawn. So I calculated e5, d4, ef6, dc3, queen d8, probably knight d8, but anything is good. I take this pawn, he takes this pawn, and I'm microscopically better because he has a damaged pawn structure. I would play bishop e3 here, and, it's probably going to be a draw, just because of how symmetrical it is, but I can ask some questions, I can put the bishop here. And so I was like, okay, look, I have a feeling this is the best move. And it is. But how do I preserve the pawn? Like, if ed knight b4 and I play bishop c4, he just plays bishop f5, and I have no idea how I'm supposed to stop knight c2. I'm not supposed to stop knight c2. You can't stop knight c2. So then I calculated, I calculated ED knight b4, bishop b5 check, bishop d7, queen e2, queen e7, and I was like, how am I, so I'm going to put that on the board. This is what went through my head, queen e2, queen e7. I was like, how is this possible? Now he's actually threatening knight c2 check. And if bishop d7, he takes with the king and he brings his rook. I'm like, what? So then I'm like, okay, well, so what if I, what if I take on d5 and then he plays that, and I just give him the pawn? Just give him the pawn back. Or what if I play bishop e5, bishop d7, then I take queen d7? And I'm like, well, this doesn't make any sense. I said, okay, what if I'm just supposed to play knight to f3? And knight f3, he's going to take my pawn. I'm going to give him a check. He's going to play bishop d7. I'm going to play take, maybe knight to e5. This also doesn't work. It looks like it works. Why does it look like it works? Because he has to leave this diagonal, and then I play queen a4 check with a great position. Nope, because when I attack his queen, he can take and counterattack my queen. Knight takes d7, knight takes d1, knight f6, gf6, king d1. This is just a draw. I mean, again, we have the same kind of structure, and he gets to move. He's going to long castle. I spent so much time. I didn't see the way I'm supposed to play. Well, the way I'm supposed to play is I'm supposed to take knight b4, bishop b5, bishop d7, and in this position, the one and only one move. Not bishop d7, not queen e2, not knight f3, not any of these moves. d6. Temporarily, his queen no longer sees here. So he has to take on b5 because I'm threatening queen e2. So queen e2 is just game over. He loses everything. So bishop b5, knight b5. It looks like I have knight c7. But he has queen a5 with the discovered threat and my knight is hanging. If I play knight c7, I'm actually losing here maybe because he has a direct attack on my king. So after d6, bishop b5, knight b5, and queen a5, I had to find check, king d7. Now rook e8 is a threat. Knight f3, so rook e8 is not a threat because of knight e5 check. Knight d3, which is a discovered check, king f1, queen b5. And now I play knight to e5 check. He cannot take it because of this. King d6. And now I play bishop to e3 and rook to d1. And after knight d5, rook d1, knight e3, queen e3, king c7, queen d3, rook d3, I'm slightly better because I have pressure on his position. That was the only way to get an advantage after knight to c6. I didn't see that. Not gonna lie, didn't see ED knight b4, bishop b5, bishop d7, d6, followed by bishop b5, knight b5, queen a5, queen e2 check, king d7, knight f3, knight d3, king f1, queen b5, knight e5, king d6, bishop to e3, etc. I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Well, here's the good news. I have e5 as a backup plan, which loses the game in 9 moves. Remember how I told you about e5 and the idea was that after d4 we trade everything? Yeah, well, a move that didn't even remotely cross my mind is knight to g4. Just knight to g4. I can't take the pawn. If I take on d5, he goes here and I can't stop the attack. If knight h3, he goes bishop c5, I'm just slaughtered. He just gets directly to my king before I even have a chance to breathe. If I take with the knight, he plays bishop c5 and I just can't stop knight f2. I have half out of 4 and I'm staring down the barrel of half out of 5. In 9 moves. You know, it really feels like I was just like living in a nightmare. Like well, here I decided, okay, bishop e2. I have nothing else. I played bishop e2, and I realized even that move doesn't actually help. Because I thought, he would play h5 or something, but d5 is hanging. No, he can just play bishop c5. Now, I was really shocked he spent 28 minutes on bishop c5, because to me, it was like the most obvious move by far. Some of you may be confused. The point is you can leave the knight to hang. Black's position is so good, because I weaken my king. Right, and this is the thing about playing these offbeat, tricky, risky openings against grandmasters. See, at your level, you could play anything. If you play this against somebody, you're going to win in 15 moves as white. They are not going to come up with these crafty variations where, like, white has the advantage, but white has to play perfectly for 20 moves. Yeah, I weaken my king. So now if I take the knight, there's queen h4 check. And it's even worse. If I don't take the knight, he just goes knight f2. Maybe even something else. I don't know. So I decided here, look, I know I'm worse. I know I'm probably close to losing, but I have to play chess. So I'm going to take, he's going to play queen h4. I played g3. He took. And I made a decision here from the very beginning. I'm going to trade the queens, and I'm going to take on d5. I'm going to take on d5. The threat is knight c7, right? So he probably is going to castle, which is what he did in the game. I'm going to bring the knight back to e3, hitting the bishop. And then we're going to see what happens. All right? That's the plan. Except knight takes d5 loses to the absolutely savage bishop to f5. Straight up lost the game in 9 moves and 14. Now it's over. The point is he doesn't actually have to stop the fork. Because after king d7, knight a8, he goes here. I lose my rook. What the... What? And my knight is trapped? Bishop f5 is resigns. I mean, literally, bishop f5 is resigns. Now, in my defense, he went here. He spent 14 minutes in that position, probably looking at long castle, rook d8, you know, knight d4 right away, trying to play knight c2. A lot of the stuff looks good. A lot of it looks like it works. But this is ridiculous. I mean, we are both completely, like, horrendous. I mean, maybe he saw it and he just wanted the game to go a little longer. Like, I don't know. You know, like, they accuse boxers of coasting and, like, holding up the other fighter with their shoulder when they hit them. Maybe he just felt bad for me. I have no clue. Maybe he didn't see bishop f5. I have no idea. The best move here was not to take. The best move was to include h3, and maybe I can get my rook to come protect me as long as I don't hang my knight in one move, like something like bishop f5, knight f3. I don't actually know why I didn't go for this, to be honest with you. I thought the only thing that I could do was play knight takes d5. I thought if I played h3, I would just... So I basically took on d5 because and I did it very fast because I completely didn't see bishop f5 because I thought this was the only move. And then I went here and I was like, look, I'm worse, but at least I have an extra pawn. So if he doesn't play this correctly with his 20 minutes on the clock, I probably will be able to survive. And it was a good practical decision because he immediately made a bad move. I looked for a lot of different things here. I thought maybe he would play h5. I thought he... And basically, again, my plan was to kick him out, play knight f3, a3, rook h2, like consolidate and survive. But he went bishop e6. I played knight f3. I don't know why I spent 6 minutes on that move. Literally, everything else loses. I don't know why I spent, again, whatever, playing badly, playing slowly, losing the game in 12 moves. He played f6, which... to me, was a logical decision. He was trying to get me to open the position like this, and then he would play rook e8, and I would get slaughtered because I have no development. He's also trying to fight back in the center of the board. Here I played bishop d2, pretty, 4 minutes, because I was like, what else can I do? I need to bring my bishop and my rook to the party. And now with 16 minutes here, Oliver started playing really fast. I think he sensed that time was a bit low, so he wanted to make a couple of improving moves and keep the pressure on me. But the way that he was playing made me realize, like, I don't think he's got it fully together. So he went king b8, and now I spent a lot of time because I wanted to just play rook c1, but I noticed here that I had a cool idea, which was f5. I suddenly can move the pawns in the center. And if, like, bishop f7, I have e6, suddenly the center's closed. So I looked at f5. I'll tell you and by the way, he can take my knight, so I can't guard my, but after this, bishop f5, ef, he doesn't have enough time here. If rook e8, I play king f2. If pawn takes f6, I have bishop f4 and I castle. This is a draw. I mean, I've completely neutralized the position. So I saw the move f5. I'll tell you why I rejected this. I rejected this because of bishop to d5. And I simply thought that after knight takes d5, rook takes d5, I'm going to lose my pawns. For reasons I cannot fully explain to you, I saw this. I saw all of this, then I saw this, I also thought maybe he could play... No, this is what I saw. And something like this, fe5. I saw this position, and I didn't go for it. Like, I saw f5, bishop d5, knight d5, rook d5, long castle. I thought, this is dangerous for me. I mean, I'm putting it on the board now, and I'm physically repulsed. Like, what could possibly be bad here? I even have a majority of pawns now. I could maybe make a pass pawn. It is insane that I saw f5 with double his time on the clock, and I didn't go for it. It's bananas. I mean, it's completely insane. I looked at it and said, it's bad for me. I saw the whole sequence of moves. So what did I do instead? Rook c1. It's the second best move. There is some logic to it. And he played b6. Now, again, I was considering f5. But this time, he can take my a-pawn. Well, good thing there's an easy fix for that, which is pushing your pawn to a3. Now he cannot put anything on b4. And here I was looking at all sorts of lines, and he played a move here that I knew was bad. a5. I was like, a5. What? I was like, I think Oliver had to go here. Like, I think he needed to open the center. Rook f8 ideas, this type of stuff. But he didn't like that I could play b4. So he played b4. Again, look at his time. 16, 15, right? 15. He's playing pretty quickly. He played a5. And again, I was like, I sense I am so close to fully consolidating the position. Just something has gone wrong. Like, I'm getting more and more pieces to the game, right? Now, I knew I needed to bring my king up. And also I considered at this point, like, maybe I can take on f6. Because now I have enough material where I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure this is going to work, and he has pressure. But I was still a little bit scared. Now, in this position from a long time ago, I decided my king should move up. My king should move up because he protects everybody this way. And I did not consider for a second going to f2. Why? Because I don't guard my bishop anymore, so it's only guarded by the knight, and I'm walking straight into a pin, and I might even walk into this. So I'm going to be hit everywhere. This is kind of what I was envisioning. But the thing is, if he ever takes on e5, I have a lot of positions, like let's say here, where I can play f5. Like this had been one of my critical ideas. Now, just like the rest of the games of the tournament, and this game in particular, deer in headlights moment just happens, like where I just can't see anything anymore. So, but in my defense, neither did he, because king e2 is a horrendous move. Why? Because he has bishop c8, bishop a6, and I'm sniped from a distance. I mean, I didn't even cross the furthest corner of my cortex that he would play bishop c8, bishop a6. All I was looking at is he's gonna take, he's gonna bring his rook, something like that. Again, after fe, maybe I can trade the knight. I have no idea why I didn't do this. Not a clue. Not a clue. Not a clue. Maybe I was worried he has knight d4 check. I was worried, like, why would I let his knight into my position? Well, guess what? Like, even if he has knight b3, this is a fork. So he doesn't have knight b3. And so he might play king b7, which gives me time to consolidate the position and also maybe play b4, attacking his bishop. But okay, fair. So fe5, and he plays rook f8. And here something crazy happens. He plays rook f8, right? Thought goes through my head. Hey, how about b4? Logic. b4, if take, he can't take this at all. If he takes with the bishop, I take his knight. If he takes with the knight, I go take, rook c6. I'm threatening back-to-back forks. I'm winning the game. So I'm like, b4, he can't take. That's kind of cool. And then I'm like, wait a minute, but he could take here. Oh, that's really dangerous because, you know, my original plan here was to play rook c6, but I can't do that because now bishop d5. Oh, man. And if bishop e3, he has bishop g4. Oh, that's really bad. And king e3 is a bit too dangerous, I feel like, because maybe bishop d5 attacking stuff, and, you know, if rook f1, he can always take, and then at the end he's going to take this too or something. No. And if knight e5, no. Like, this is a draw. Okay, maybe I don't play that, but, like, apparently this is just a draw. My king is so active, it's just a draw. I considered b4. And something happened here where I don't know how to describe it. Like, I have this voice in my head when I play chess, right? We all do. Or maybe I should get it checked out. And, you know, the old version of myself from 2021, when I used to play games and recap them on the channel, would randomly lash out at his opponents in moments it was not called for, and would just like lose immediately, right? And I didn't dig more into b4 once I miscalculated, which I've been doing all tournament. Once I miscalculated, I didn't dig any deeper. I threw it out and I said, why would I do something like that? That move is probably going to lose me the game. And what's interesting is that sometimes when you take the advice that your coach or whoever has, you know, you've instilled it in yourself, sometimes the advice comes out at the wrong moments. And that generally tends to happen, I suppose, when you're having a bad tournament. You think to do something or not to do something, and it's at the wrong moment, and b4 is the only move that saves the game. And the thing is, it actually straight up saves the game because it starts to trade pieces. So, for example, knight d4 check is the best move. We have takes, and rook f1. I'm going to start trading everything. So instead of that, I was like, oh, b4 is not good. He moved his rook. I'm going to move my rook. Yeah, he just takes my knight. Black wins. He sacks his rook. If I take like this, he gets my bishop. If I take like this, he has knight d4. He takes here, and then he takes my bishop. I mean, it is sickening, actually. Completely sickening to blunder rook takes f3. But it is twice in the same game. You will remember in the opening, I did not even see the move knight to g4. It just didn't even like occur to me that the knight could move there. And I paid the ultimate price. The move b4 crossed my mind. I told myself, hey, remember how you've been told repeatedly that, you know, you would lash out and it would be at the wrong moment, and that's when you would lose your games. Let's just settle down for a second. Let's just play rook f. Yeah, and he just took my knight, and that was the end of the game. It's crazy to blunder rook takes. I mean, I'm like sick to my stomach even like looking at this. And yet, I resigned a couple. I didn't even. There's no point playing this position. Everything is falling. This is falling. This is falling. This is falling, and I'm probably gonna lose my knight too. I have half out of 5. This was probably the worst game I've played. Well, it's definitely the worst game I've played since coming back. It's one of the worst games I've played, period, maybe in like 10 years. Like, this was crazy. And to actually work my way back into it, you know, and build up and to see multiple ways of completely neutralizing, and then rook f3 at the end, you know, is, what can I say? It's a learning experience for sure. I lost this game, and I've been losing games. This one, psychologically, somehow trying to tell myself certain advice just completely at the wrong moment. And yet I'm still like nowhere near as negative and nowhere near as down as I was 3 years ago. I'm just like, what is going on? Like, maybe I'm burnt out? I have no idea. No idea. I showed up to this tournament with the full intention of kicking ass. Full intention. I'm going to play at home. I get to sleep in my own bed. No jet lag. Coming off the Italian, last round finish. I'm shocked. Shocked at what's happening. I'm going to go get some sleep. I'll see you all for the next recaps. This is the road to GM, baby. We're not quitting. I ain't effing leaving. The words of Wolf of Wall Street. See you all for the next recaps. Road to GM continues. This sucks, but it's only up from here. I hope. Get out of here.